Greetings and salutations, good citizens. This is Az. Welcome on back to the Fright Club, your one-stop shop for all things horror. Alrighty, as I said before, our topic today is horror anthologies. Now, horror anthologies are a very big part of my heart. As a horror fan, I love anthologies. I love being able to, begging your pardon, I love basically you get one movie, you watch one movie, but you get like 5, 6 stories, which to me is really cool. It's like, hey, I'm getting 5 stories for the price of one. Yeah. And for me, that's a slap and a tickle. I love it. Just give me a few moments here, good citizens. What is this? Oh, there you go. I still feel like one of those idiots, have work. All right, here we go. I hope everyone's having a good day. Hope everything's going well for everybody today. Hope you slept well. Hope you had your Wheaties this morning. Where's America? There's that. Oh, look. I'm doing all these things. Look at me. Doing very well. Yep. Oh no. Kids, don't get old. If you can help it, don't get old. Wow. Apparently I can't spell either. But Jersey Public Schools. What can you do? Would you? Thank you. Yes, I'm yelling at my laptop. You heard me. There's that. Ha 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 ha. Okie finokis. Now, as I said before, I love me some, it would be so nice if, wait, can I do it here? I can. Oh, I can see who's in here. Look at that. Nice. All right. So, we're going to talk about the anthologies. Now, I was going to go in order of recent ones I've seen, but I figure, at the moment, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with, not in the order I've seen them, because I don't friggin' know, but I will go with the first one I ever saw. Now, the first one I ever saw that I remember, anyway, as a kid, was Twilight Zone the movie, which was on HBO a lot when I was growing up. Now, Twilight Zone the movie was released in, I want to say 1981, maybe 82. But it was like a big budget movie. It had segments directed by John Landis, Steven Spielberg, Joe Dante. Now, I can't talk about the movie without talking about the tragedy that happened when during the filming of the first segment, which was a very kind of loose remake of a Twilight Zone episode called Quality of Mercy, where a racist guy who hates minors, he winds up in Vietnam, and then somewhere in the 60s during a civil rights movement. But while they're filming in Vietnam, the actor Vic Morrow and 2 children were killed in a helicopter accident. So I can't mention this story. We had this movie about mentioning that, and it was a horrible, horrible accident. It was horrible. However, now to lighten this things up again, it had 4 segments. You had Quality Mercy segment. Then you have the remake of Kick the Can, about a bunch of senior citizens in a home who find their own fountain of youth. Then you have It's a Good Life, which is about a town that is basically held hostage by a young boy who has the powers of a god, like you can warp reality to him. And then the final segment is Terror at 10,000 Feet, which is a classic segment with William Shatner. There's something on the wing, and he's seeing a gremlin on the wing of the plane tearing crap up, and no one believes him because he's mentally unstable. If I remember, like he's terrified of heights. And those are your 4. No, I'm missing one. Hold on, I'm sorry. Terror 10,000 feet. Yeah, Terror 1,000 feet. I'm sorry. Just count 10,000 feet. It's a Good Life. I'm right. Those are your 4. I'm right. Now, my favorite segment isn't any of those. My favorite segment is the opening of the movie. Now, the opening is you got 2 dudes played by Albert Brooks and Dan Aykroyd. They're driving down this road at night. Now, it opens with them singing Midnight Special by Creedence. And they're singing, they're having a great old time. And then the car eats the tape. So now they have no music, they have no way to entertain themselves. So they start coming out with road games. And the road games are like, well, first, Albert Brooks decides he's going to play this game where they're driving and he turns off the headlights. And you can't see anything. And he's like, oh, blah, blah. What's going to happen? There could be nuns out there. You don't know. And he keeps doing it to tease Dan Aykroyd. And then they start playing a game of guess the TV theme songs. And this is really fun. It's a great opening. Both Aykroyd and Albert Brooks have tremendous chemistry. They're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it still feels like there's a part where it's improvised, where Aykroyd starts doing the theme to Hawaii Five-0, and Albert Brooks starts rocking to it, and then Aykroyd just starts laughing, and that really feels like it was improv. There's a twist at the end. The twist is fun. It's like a good jump scare. But this is my favorite segment of the movie, honestly, because everything else, like the first segment, has kind of an abrupt ending. Because I'm thinking Vic Morrow passed before they were done filming it, so the ending is kind of the Kick the Can one is way too saccharine sweet for me. It feels too Spielberg, if that makes any sense. The It's a Good Life segment, directed by Joe Dante, and it's well directed, don't get me wrong, and it has some really cool stuff, but I really can't explain it. I just don't like it. Like, it doesn't hold up to the original tale from the classic series where it's the kids played by Bill Mumy from Lost in Space, and you got Cloris Leachman in it, and I don't know why. The segment is so much better on the TV. And the last segment of Terror 10,000 Feet, that is amazing. That is a great segment, with John Lithgow replacing William Shatner, and Lithgow just is all over the place, and he plays it so well. Like, you can feel his sweat, and that's an amazing sequence. But one cool sequence out of the I don't know. Like, I was never a giant fan of the movie, as much as I absolutely love the TV show. 3 versions of it: the original, the '80s version, which is what I grew up on, and I even like the one that was on UPN for a hot minute. The only one I have no fandom towards is the last one with Jordan Peele, just because I haven't watched it yet, so I have no opinion. Now, while I was here, I'm going to basically throw myself a curveball because I didn't put this in my notes. I want to talk about another movie based off a TV show. Now, I'm sure those of you who are watching this, already know what I'm talking about, and it's Tales from the Dark Side. Now, Tales from the Dark Side was a TV show in the 80s that was created by George Romero right after Creepshow 2. I want to say it came out. And it was an anthology series. It was syndicated. And it had it had episodes. It went from horror to sci-fi. You had some comedy in there. But it was really, it was a fun series. Again, it was well done. It creeped me out when I was a kid. Matter of fact, the opening, the title sequence, might be one of the creepiest title sequences I've ever seen on TV. Just the theme song alone is, really terrifying. So they made a movie. Now, Tales from the Dark Side of the movie is essentially Creepshow 3. Because Tales from the Dark Side of the TV show was supposed to be Creepshow. That was the intention, but I guess they couldn't get the rights to it or it would cost too much, one or the other. So they went with Tales from the Dark Side. Now, and also Tales from the Dark Side, the movie basically has almost the entire crew from Creepshow 1 and 2. It has segments based off of Stephen King stories. And I think they were all directed by George. No, none of them directed by George Romero. They're all directed by this new guy. And all the wraparounds are animated now. And it's about this young kid. I want to say his name Tommy, off the top of my head. And he's being harassed by bullies. But he winds up going to the post office first, and he gets his new issue of Creepshow, but he also gets a packet of seeds for Venus flytraps. And the bullies are there, and they harass him. He goes hiding. And the wraparound has a pretty good comeuppance for the bullies. That's Creepshow 2. I am so sorry. I apologize. The wraparound for Tales from the Dark Side. Oops. The wraparound from Tales from the Dark Side is you got Debbie Harry from Blondie. And she has Matthew Lawrence, young Matthew Lawrence. He's in a cage. And she's getting ready to cook him and eat him. But he decides to distract him, and he keeps distracting her, and he keeps telling her story. He starts telling her stories. And from this book called Tales from the Dark Side, you got 3 stories, I want to say. You got the first one, which is my favorite one, with it's in a college, and you got this frat boy basically played by Christian Slater and his snooty friends, and they don't want to study for finals, but they have not a roommate, but a dorm mate, essentially, in the same, not dorm, but the same building, whatever, played by Steve Buscemi. I think this is the first movie I've ever seen Buscemi in. And he's this nerd guy, and he gets a mummy in the mail, and he decides, I'm going to animate it and kill these sons of bitches. And the mummy goes around, starts wiping people out, till Christian Slater, decides to fight back. And again, the ending's a good ending, makes a good twist. But it's my favorite segment out of the 3. So you get that one, you get... I can't remember the second one. I'm going to look that up. Give me a few moments, citizens. I'm going to look that up. I can't remember the second one. Right. So, as I'm looking this up, talk amongst yourselves. I don't know. Start playing Bing. Oh! Second one is about... How did I forget this? Second one is about this old dude, played by William Hickey, who is the snarky grandfather from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. The Blessing! That guy. But he's old dude. He's like this old rich guy. And his family got rich. They're like a pharmaceutical company or whatever, but they essentially tortured and kills cats. Like that's basically how they made their money. But he hires an assassin played by Buster Poindexter, from the "Feeling Hot, Hot, Hot" song. He hires him, and Buster Poindexter is like this assassin. And he hires this dude to kill a cat. And this cat is badass. Like this is basically almost a live action cartoon. Not until this is kind of funny, but like the dude keeps trying to kill the cat keeps escaping. He takes them both out, but the way he takes out, I want to say, the ending with Buster Poindexter and William Hickey, that this entire ending is nuts. It is nuts. And I highly suggest this movie just for that segment. Not my favorite one. My favorite one is The Mummy, but that's a great segment. Then the last segment is James Remar is he's an artist, but he's basically hit writer's block. I don't know if it's called Pander's block for artists, but because he can't create anything he tries to create, his agent doesn't like, and he said this is crap, and he basically gets fired. He's in a bar and he leaves this bar, he's drunk, and then he gets attacked by a gargoyle. And the guy says, "Please leave me alone." And the gargoyle says, "I'll leave you alone, but you can't tell anybody about this. Anybody." And when Remar escapes with his life, whatever, and he's terrified, and he runs into Ray Don Chong, and they hit it off. And now the encounter with the gargoyle gives James Remar, the artist, enough inspiration that he starts making all these paintings or whatever. And I think Ray Don Chong happens to. It's been so long since I've watched this movie, but I do know he starts creating art and he's selling it. He is as balls. I'm not going to give it away, but it's obvious. But it is so cool. Again, great effects, really cool movie. And so I suggest, every single thing I'm about to mention today, find them and watch them. About the rules for me covering any of the movies, there are movies I have to have seen. I'm not going to cover stuff like I'll get worried about this movie. I haven't seen it, or I just forgot. Like I forgot this. I also forgot Creepshow. How in the hell can I forget Creepshow? I love Creepshow. First one, classic movie. A team up of both George Romero and Stephen King. And it's very EC Comics, like it's done in the EC Comics style. So well done. And, really great stories. Like the first one, Father's Day, where a family, like a rich family, is getting together on Father's Day, and they're waiting for Aunt Bedelia. And Bedelia, she, like her father was a dick who kept demanding his cake on Father's Day. So she very calmly kills him. But every Father's Day, she winds up at his grave and drinks and says goodbye to her dad every Father's Day. This Father's Day, she gets a visitor at the gravesite. I'm trying to make this as vague as possible because if you haven't seen this movie, and I don't know why the hell you haven't seen this, and again, if you're watching this channel, I'm pretty sure you've seen this movie. I'm not assuming you've seen every single movie I'm about to mention, but it's freaking Creepshow. So I'm going to assume you've seen this one. But so this one happens, and then the visitor decides to visit the family. Now, the family are all these rich schmucks, but the youngest daughter, like she's 20s, maybe mid 30s, and she's all spoiled and can't do anything for herself, but she's dating a guy, like looks like a blue collar guy, but he's played by Ed Harris. And this scene has the amazing Ed Harris dancing scene. Look it up. Look up Ed Harris dancing Creepshow on YouTube. You'll find it. It's amazing. But they each getting picked off one by one by a zombie. And then the ending happens, and it's tremendous. So that's your first one. The second one is, I want to say it's Thing in the Crate. I may be getting the order wrong, but no, the Thing in the Crate's the last one. It doesn't really matter. Although now I'm wondering, I suck at this. It's weird. I know these things like the back of my heart until I'm talking about them, and all of a sudden it just goes away. So kids, don't get old if you can help it. Just don't get old. And then, okay. Oh, I forgot. How can I forget? So the second one is The Loathsome Death of Jordy Verrill. This one, I think this one gets a lot of shit because it stars Stephen King and it's based off one of his story, Weeds. But it's basically this country bumpkin. A meteor crashes in his backyard. He decides to go investigate. The meteor breaks open. He hits on him, what have you, and then plant matter starts growing on him. And it's slow, and then he's like, when he has the meteor, he's thinking about, he daydreams about going and getting money. And then once it breaks open, that dream goes to some guy goes, like the same guy, but he's like, you don't get any money. And he's like, oh, Jordy Verrill, you lung kid. And then he, when the stuff's growing on him, he starts thinking about he needs to go to a doctor, and he's thinking about this doctor who's going to amputate things off him, stuff like that. So it's a very lighthearted segment. The ending takes a bit of a hard left turn, and it's a little dark, but everything else is kind of played for laughs to me. And this segment has the immortal line from Stephen King, meteor shit, just right there. Boom, done. I love it. Third one, the third segment, which is my favorite segment, is Something That Tides You Over, where your villain is played by Liam Neeson. Not Liam Neeson. Wow. That'd be better, though. Leslie Nielsen. It's played by Leslie Nielsen. I'm sorry. Now it's picturing Liam Neeson. Quickly, there's no time. Quickly, there are things. That's a horrible Liam Neeson. I know. Leave me alone. But Leslie Nielsen, from Airplane, what have you, but he's playing this really sinister character. And I know people are like, what? He could act seriously? I'm like, yeah. Like before Airplane, all he did was serious pieces. And he's a creepy bastard. So anyway, so he takes Ted Hansen, yeah. Ted Danson's playing this young guy who is basically boning Leslie Nielsen's wife. And they're planning on escaping. Leslie Nielsen finds out. So he takes Ted Danson to a beach that's close to Leslie Nielsen's house. And he forces Ted Danson to get into a hole that was dug on the beach. And then he digs him up to it. So he's up to his neck. And he's right by the ocean. And Nielsen has a TV and a VCR on the beach and has Ted Danson watching this video of Nielsen's wife in the same predicament, but the tide's coming in and it's drowning her. And Nielsen's like, oh no, you got to catch your breath. You got to do this, whatever. Then of course the tide starts coming on Ted. And then Nielsen has like this giant collection of tapes. Who knows how many on these tapes people have died because of him. But you get a lot of tapes, what have you. And then, of course, Danson and Nielsen's wife come back. They're all waterlogged monsters. Really well done, too. And then, classic Tales from the Crypt style. There's some comeuppance. Again, very well done, very fun. Again, my favorite segment. And Leslie Nielsen's amazing in this segment, and I love him. And your last one is the crate, which is Hal Holbrook is a college professor, very kind of, uppity. Not uppity, he's not snooty, but very upper class, kind of tight-lipped type stuff. He's very, old school professor. But his wife is played by Adrienne Barbeau, who's a complete bitch in this segment, and she does it so well. And so Henry keeps daydreaming about killing her, and her name's Wilma, but she tells everyone to call her Billy. So while that's happening, a crate winds up at the college where Holbrook's working at, and it's like this giant crate, and his assistant, his partner, like his teaching partner, decides to open it up, and the janitor comes and puts his hand in it, and he gets bitten off like this giant beast in the crate. Holbrook finds out about it, and he decides, you know what? Maybe my wife Billy, maybe she needs to have a new pet, for lack of a better term. And again, great segment. The monster effects done by Tom Savini are really good. Like the beast that's named Fluffy. That was named Fluffy by the special effects crew. It's like this giant kind of monkey thing, kind of sort of. But he looks really cool. And again, really well done. Great segment. Again, these are very fun movies. Now, Creepshow 2 is not as well done. It's lower budget, but it's still based off of stories from Stephen King. I know the first one is a bunch of kids, teenagers, possibly. I'm hoping college students, because he's got these like 2 dudes and 3 chicks. No, that's a lot. 2 dudes and 2 chicks, I'm gonna say. But if these are high school students, then I'm a high school student. Because these kids, they look like they're 40. And so it's like, you're not. No. Now, this is the one, as I was saying before, that has the wraparound, the animated wraparound. But this movie, again, not as well done as the first one, but to me, it's fun. I grew up on this one. This is the one I watched a lot as a kid, or as a teenager, I'll put it that way. Because this was on cable a lot. So, okay, a lot. The first one is Old Chief Woodenhead, which is about an old couple that runs like a convenience store, essentially. Not far from a Native American reservation. By the way, I'm not going to say Native American the entire time when I describe one thing, it's just because it works. Because of what it is. But anyway, so this old couple, played by George Kennedy from Naked Gun fame, and a lady. It's her convenience store, whatever. They're there, and then these 3 hooligans show up. Their leader is this Native American dude with long black hair, that he's very proud of. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to go to Hollywood with this." His fat flunky, I'm just going to call Obo. I can't remember his name. Obo sounds good. And then his and their colleague, like this kind of, I don't know, wormy guy, who I'm going to call Snickers, because if you've seen Hudson Hawk, he played the character Snickers, so I'm going to call him Snickers. So they're there, and they decide they want to rob the store, and George Kennedy's like, "What the hell, dude? Your father, Chief Sit-On Head, I can't remember what his name was, but he's there, and he's been giving us stuff, blah, blah, blah." Matter of fact, the segment opens with the chief coming in, and because apparently George Kennedy has been giving them credit for so long, and his wife's like, yeah, he's going to come up here and ask for more credit, and you're an idiot, you're going to give him. But the chief comes up and gives him like all this Native American jewelry that was made for him and stuff. Like, it's really beautiful looking. And Kennedy takes it with a, and then the three hooligans come in and they hold the wife hostage. Like one of them has a shotgun to her side, and then they rob Kennedy, and then like they take the necklaces back, what have you. And then they accidentally kill the wife, so they turn around and kill George Kennedy and they leave. Now the front of the store has this cigar store Indian, which is like this giant man-sized wooden statue. Like in the beginning, Kennedy's puts new war paint on him, whatever. So once they killed him, once the hooligans killed him and leave, Chief Woodenhead does this. And Woodenhead decides he's going to go and he's going to get some vengeance for the owners. Again, I'm going to say the word fun a lot. You can take a drinking game again, but this segment is, to me, it's very, very 80s. It's kind of slasher material because Chief Woodenhead's slow and he moves and he stalks. So it's very much that. So again, this is a well-made story. Again, it's very low budget, and you can see the low budget throughout the segment. But it's a good time. The second one is The Raft. Now, The Raft is based off a Stephen King story by the same name. And it's basically these college kids wind up. It's in mid-October, and they decide, hey, we're going to swim in a lake. So there's two dudes and two chicks. So there's the dude bro guy, like I'm going to call him Chad. And he got the younger dude who's basically picked on, I'm going to call him Larry. And these two chicks. Matter of fact, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm looking at their names. But I'm going to call the ladies Laverne and Shirley. So you get there and they're like, oh, it's cold, but they all swim. Like there's this lake and there's a raft, like this wooden raft that's in the middle of the lake. So they all swim there and they're lying. And then they see this giant oil slick that's kind of in the area. And one of them goes to touch it and it essentially suckers in and eats her. So the three of them were trying to figure out how to escape. Chad decides, and he goes next. And then, so now you get Larry and Shirley, they're lying there. And Shirley's lying there, she's asleep. And Larry decides he's going to get gropey. But you're like, dude. And then he gets cock blocked by the oil slick, and then he decides, I'm going to make a run for it or swim for it. The ending is spoiled in the trailer for the movie, which I didn't know. And then the last sequence is the hitchhiker, where this lady, she's, is done nailing this dude, and is a male hoe. Gigolo. I was calling him a male hoe. So, but she decides, oh crap, I'm late and I need to go home before my husband gets home. She's going, and there's this hitchhiker with a sign, and then she just like his sign's going to Denver, and she just runs him over, hits him. She's like, oh crap, and she's a hit and run. She just goes. So she keeps seeing this son of a bitch, like different parts of the road as she's going. And so basically he's stalking her, but he's getting more and more decrepit because he's a zombie or whatever. And she just wants to get home, but she keeps hitting him. Like, this is really well done. Again, this may be the best produced one out of the three. But again, the comeuppance at the ending is good. It's just a good time. My favorite segment out of the three, as much as I love the raft, and I do, Chief Woodenhead is my favorite one out of the three. So again, good stuff. I have no idea where it is streaming, but I would say find it. Now, the next ones I'm going to talk about are movies from Amicus. Now, Amicus Productions was kind of like Hammer. Like people always, like people keep kind of confusing it with Hammer Studios because they're both in Britain and came out around the same. Like Hammer was first, Amicus not too far later. Now, Amicus is a bit of a lower budget. Bit of a lower budget Hammer, but Amicus was the house of horror anthologies for a while. And while I'm here, it's funny. Before I got here, I was taking notes on like on each anthology I was going to cover, and I have all these notes in there. I'm like, and then I'm like, wait, hold on, I can just do this. And yeah, I didn't think so far ahead. Leave me alone. Wikipedia, there it is. Let's see. So anyway, so Amicus. I'm gonna go through a bunch of these. The first one of theirs I saw was Tales from the Crypt, which was made in 1972. And basically what it is you get 5 strangers, played by Joan Collins, Ian Hendry, Robin Phillips, Richard Green, and Nigel Patrick. They wind up in a crypt, and that's basically, and they're being told stories by the Crypt Keeper, played by Ralph Richardson, which looks nothing like the Crypt Keeper from the TV show. He's just this, older dude, bald white dude with like a cloak and a hood, and he starts telling those stories. Now, what the story is he's telling them basically how they got there, and you get 5 stories, and the first one is all through the house, which is my favorite segment out of them. And so basically, you get Joan Collins as a lady, and she decides, I'm going to kill my husband on Christmas Eve, which is kind of cold. But she kills him on Christmas Eve. Their daughter is upstairs waiting for Santa Claus. She's asleep, whatever. So she decides, I gotta hide his body. But then she hears a radio on the radio that, hey, this homicidal maniac is on the loose. And by the way, he's dressed as Santa. And she's trying to hide the body, and then she's trying to clean it up, but she can't. And she sees him outside. She sees the maniac outside the house, but she can't call the cops because she just murdered her husband. And there's a nice tense, chase down, what have you. And again, the end. It's really hard for me not to give away the endings, but I'm not going to because I'm assuming maybe not all of you seen this one. This one isn't as well known as the Tales from Dark Side and 2 Creepshow ones. So, but this one really well done. Joan Collins does a great job as the lady. This was like, I think one of the first 5 episodes of the Tales from the Crypt TV show, where the murderous lady was played by the mom from Monster Squad, and also the psychiatrist in the Lethal Weapon movies. So both are well done, very good. Now the second one is Reflection of Death, and you get this guy who abandons his family because he's nailing his secretary, and they're driving together, and they get into a car accident. Now he wakes up, and now when he wakes up, it's all first person. So you're seeing everything through his eyes, and he's going, and like he goes to his house, like everything's different, like no one's at his house, and he finally finds his secretary. No, I'm sorry, my bad. When he gets to his house, he sees his wife with another dude, and when he knocks on the door, she opens the door, sees him, and just screams. So then he goes see his secretary. He knocks on the door. Now she doesn't scream; she's blind from the accident. But then when he turns around and sees his face, whatever, and he's all bleh, ugly, and then the ending happens. But again, this is really creepy. I thought this is pretty fun. And the next one, Poetic Justice, is okay. You have like Peter Cushing's playing. He plays like a poor guy, like he's a trash picker, what have you. But he entertains the neighborhood children. Like he gives them toys or whatever. Like he makes them toys, what have you, and the kids love him. But across the street, what have you, there is a snobby rich couple, an old dude and a son. And they hate Peter Cushing's character. He's basically lowering the value of the neighborhood, for basically lack of a better term. So they decide we're going to get rid of him, and they keep sending him. Hold on. So first he starts a smear campaign, like having his dogs taken by animal control. And then he persuades like a member of the council of the town to get Grimsdyke removed from his job. Grimsdyke is Peter Cushing's character. And then the last one is they basically tell the town that he's bad touching the kids. So they keep their kids away from him too. And like the kids were like his last joy. Now, what they don't know is that Grimsdyke is kind of dabbling in the occult because he holds a seance by himself to look at his wife. Then the rich young snob starts sending Grimsdyke like really bad Valentine's cards that are supposedly from the town. Grimsdyke hangs himself as a result. And then the rich couple, they're all like, the dad and the son are like, yeah, all right, good. We got rid of him. Hooray. Then they get a visit. Now, this one is amazing. Like, as always, Peter Cushing just knocks it right out of the park. Like, he is so good. Like, he's lovable, but when everything starts getting taken from him, your heart breaks for this man. And it's, oh my God, it's so good. And then you get the next one, Wish You Were Here, which is basically the monkey's paw. You get this rich tycoon guy. He's close to financial ruin. But then his wife finds like this Chinese figurine that basically says, hey, it's going to grant you a wish. But each wish has a cost. As a matter of fact, they even reference the monkey's paw in this. So first thing she wishes for money, but then the wish comes true, but her husband gets killed in a car crash on the way to his lawyer's office to collect the money. The lawyer shows up and tells her she'll inherit the fortune from the life insurance plan. But then she figures it out. She goes, oh, crap. She wishes her husband back. And the guy's like, you can't. Because husband comes back and he's all zombified. She wishes back to the grave. And again, against the lawyer's advice, she does it again. And she says, I wish him back just before he died. And he comes back and oh my God, like the ending is so good and so creepy. And again, like, and then the last one is Blind Alleys, where like you got a home for the blind. And this douchebag takes over. He's very militaristic. And like he's feeding, like he basically to save money at any costs. Like he's feeding the patients like scraps of food while he eats steak and he feeds like the bones, whatever, covered in meat to his dog, this giant German Shepherd. And then he stops basically heating the rooms where the patients are. So they're all cold. One guy dies, and then the head of the blind people, basically the head of the patients, played by Patrick McGee, decides, you know what, you son of a bitch? We're going to get even. and they construct like this, almost like a tunnel from the commandant's basically room to somewhere else. And like they leave razor blades in the tunnel and stuff, and he has to come out because they hear his dog barking, and everything leads to a great conclusion where he's like, "Oh, this dude got his comeuppance." Yeah. And each of these segments are based off of issues from various EC comics. Like the first one, like All Through the House, is based off of taken from a story from The Vault of Horror, number 35. Reflections of Death. The second one is from Tales from the Crypt, number 23. The third one, of Poetic Justice, is taken from Haunt of Fear, number 12. Fourth one, Wish You Were Here, was taken from Haunt of Fear, number 22. And the fifth one, Blind Alleys, was taken from Tales from the Crypt, number 46. So they were all taken from different issues. Now they did do a follow-up of this called the Vault of Horror. I've yet to see that one, so I can't cover it. Now, from that, I'm going to go to the rest of the Amicus horror catalogy. Yes, I said catalogy. You heard me. Thank you, Wikipedia. Now, there's a bunch of them, but I haven't seen all of them. Like, I haven't seen Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, but I have. The first one I've seen was The House of Drip Blood. Now, this one is, now your wraparound is basically shortly after renting a house, a film star, Paul Henderson, mysteriously disappears, and then an Inspector Holloway from Scotland Yard is called to investigate. But while he's looking at the house, he figures out this house is a history of mysterious happenings. Like the first one, Method for Murder, which is my favorite segment. So you got Denholm Elliott, who played he's an Indiana Jones, and he's head of a museum. Brody. He played Brody in Raiders and Last Crusade. So in this one, he's a hack writer, and he specializes in horror story. And him and his wife move into the house, and then he starts working on a horror novel focusing on a character named Dominic, who's a murderous, psychopathic strangler. Now, Charles starts becoming enamored and then really disturbed by the character, so much so that he starts seeing Dominic, who then begins stalking and tormenting him. As a result, Charles starts seeing a shrink, who basically says Dominic is a split personality formed on Charles getting into Dominic's mindset to write the novel. Now, the visions of Dominic starts becoming more like stronger and stronger, and he sees Dominic strangling his wife Alice, but she's like, no, it wasn't Dominic, it was you son of a bitch. And then as they're going, the shrink says, you know what, Dominic could be a result of the darker sides of your personality being released by writing the novel. But Charles is like, that's a bunch of shit. But then Dominic arrives and strangles the shrink while Charles is sitting there going, holy crap. Then at the house, Dominic starts stalking Alice. And then there's a reveal. And then there's another reveal. And this, you got two reveals. I'm not trying, again, I don't want to spoil it because, again, I'm assuming no one has seen these. And they're really fun. And all right, so you got the second one, Waxworks, where you get a retired stockbroker, Philip, played by Peter Cushing, moves into the house. And then, so he's occupying himself with his hobbies, but he becomes lonely. But then one day he's walking around town and he happens upon a wax museum. And Cushing looks through the museum, he finds a sculpture of Salome, who resembles a dead woman, that he had been in love with. Now, the proprietor explains that he based the likeness of the sculpture after his late wife, who had been executed after murdering his best friend. And then Grace is like, I'm not coming back. However, his friend Neville arrives at the home, and then Grayson eagerly invites him, hey, dude, spend the night, please. I'm lonely as crap. Now, it becomes clear that the two of them were romantic rivals. And then Cushing takes him to the spot where the wax museum was. And now Cushing's like, no, don't go in there. And his friend's like, screw you, I'm going in. He sees the sculpture, and then so there's kind of a back and forth. And then when Grayson comes back to the wax museum, his friend's head is severed on a dish. And then that's where the twist happens. Now you get your third one, Sweets for the Sweet, where Christopher Lee, who's playing a widower named John Reed, moves into the house with his young daughter, Jane. Now, Christopher Lee hires a teacher named Anne to tutor his daughter. Now, the tutor gradually forms a bond with Jane, and she helps Jane get over her fear of fire and teaches her how to read. But then she starts to think that Christopher Lee is abusing his daughter because he doesn't allow her to play with other children or own toys and anything like that. He keeps her isolated. So she confronts him about it, and asks if he blames the daughter for the death of his wife. In which Christopher Lee says, "No, I'm glad my wife's dead." And the teacher's like, "No, let me buy your daughter some toys." And he's like, "Cool." Then he winds up seeing a doll amongst the toys, and he snatches it and tosses it into the fire. But then his daughter starts secretly reading books about witchcraft. You can pretty much see where it's coming. The fourth one is The Cloak. This one is a comedy, basically. So you get an actor, a veteran horror actor, played by John Pertwee, who was the third Doctor in Doctor Who. And he moves into a house while starring in a vampire film that's being shot nearby. Now, he's very, very, like, this dude's a giant horror fan. And he's pissed about the lack of realism in this vampire movie. So much so that he's really pissed about this cloak that's worn by his character, who's the vampire. So he decides, I'm going to buy me a more accurate cloak. And he runs it, and he goes by this antique shop ran by this dude. And he offers him a black cloak after listening to Pertwee's demands. And Pertwee purchases it. And before he leaves, the dude's like, "Yo, dude, use the cloak for its intended purpose." But so when Pertwee puts on the cloak, he finds out he doesn't have a reflection. And while shooting a scene, he sucks the blood from his co-star and his girlfriend, Carla, played by the gorgeous Ingrid Pitt. So, as he keeps wearing it, as he's wearing it, he's slowly becoming one. And he realizes that the shop owner was a vampire. And then he goes to his girlfriend and explains to her what the hell's going on. And then she tells him the twist. And, again, well done. All stories are really neat. Very old school. Again, they're all kind of slow burns. But that's part and parcel for what this is. And so much fun. And then you got that one. Then you got Asylum. And hold up for 1 second. I'm getting yelled at. Oh, never mind. Thought something important. My roommate, I tell you. Hey, I got to tell you. So, you know I have no one in here right now. No one's watching this, but I'm enjoying myself. So let's see. We got Asylum, which is my favorite one. Now, Asylum is basically this dude comes in and was the wraparound is dude comes in to an secluded asylum for the incurably insane, and he wants to he wants to get work there, and he's going to be appointed and basically become a new doctor. But first, he's told by the warden that he's in a wheelchair and he was attacked by a patient. And as part of the interview, wheelchair guy goes, "Listen, dude, I want you to identify among the inmates who Dr. B. Starr, the former head of the asylum, is, and who just had a complete mental breakdown." So new guys to interview one by one the few patients that are there, and if his deduction is correct, he gets the job. He's decided to be qualified for the job, and each interview is the story. Now, the first one is he goes to a patient, and she basically remembers the story where she plots to murder. Sorry, I went backwards for a second. So she's plotting to murder Ruth, this really controlling wife of Bonnie's lover Walter. Before the kill, Ruth basically has this effect with a voodoo, and she has knowledge of forces beyond life and death. But so then her husband hacks her to pieces, and they decide they're going to hide the pieces in their cellar freezer. But the limbs don't know they're dead. Bonnie gets there and is just horrified to see what's going down. That's why she's in the asylum. Now, the second story is called The Weird Tailor. Now, this one's interesting. So, his character, Bruno, he's just sitting in the room, and he's a tailor by trade. And he gets a really odd request from a guy named Mr. Smith. And he has to make a really elaborate suit of clothing from this weird fabric that must be sewn only after midnight. So Bruno goes exactly as instructed, and when he's complete, he gives to Mr. Smith. But however, Smith is penniless, and after spending all of his fortune on this book with instructions for the special suit. So there's an altercation. Bruno opens another door and discovers this dead body of Mr. Smith's son. And Smith's like, "Dude, the suit will work to bring my son back to life." But then then Bruno shoots him by accident. And Bruno's like, "Oh, crap." He goes back home after picking up the book and the unsold suit. He tells his wife to destroy the suit, but she decides to do something else with the suit. Third one is, and this is my favorite one. Basically, he's introduced to this girl named Barbara. Now, Barbara is like this really pretty girl. She's petulant. I say girl, but she's in her 20s. And she seems to be far too young to be in an asylum. Barbara tells a story about her and her best friend, Lucy. And Lucy is like this giant bad influence on Barbara. And there's a nurse that is hired to take care of Barbara. Lucy keeps doing crap. And then the reveal of Lucy, what Lucy is your twist. This is really creepy. This is really well done. It's short, it's creepy. To me, it's the best one. It's the best one out of them. Now, then you get your last segment, Mannequin of Horror. And this time, new dude interviews Dr. Byron, who basically says, "No, I have this mastery of neurology, and other branches of the discipline, and he holds a wheelchair guy in contempt. Hold on. Hold on. I'm sorry. I was looking for a new guy. Nope, I'm right. Ha ha. I suck with names, even names with things I remember. So, but then Dr. Byron decides, hey, you know what? I'm really interested in a new direction of research, which makes him assembling small toy dolls that apparently have organs and the abilities of the human body, and which he claims to be able to infuse his own vital spirit through sheer will and concentration. And he sees the new guy going, what? So Byron says, you know what? This interview is over, and says away. Then new guy decides, you know what? I've picked it. But this leads into the epilogue where Byron basically brings a mannequin to life with his face, and stuff goes down. And again, great ending, really well done. And I don't know if I said this before I got, but Asylum is my favorite one of all these. I love Asylum. It's a great, fun movie. And you know what? I'm going to stop it here, and I'm going to come back to part 2. I'm going to continue this next week. Now, next week's stream will not be on Wednesday. It will be on Thursday. I have a dinner to go to on Wednesday, so I won't be able to come back to this. So I will do this Thursday. So I'll see you all on Thursday. Catch you on the flip side. And until then, have a good journey.